God gave a little, I want to call it a little parable here. It says in verse 10, now the son of an Israelite woman whose father was an Egyptian went out among the children of Israel, and this Israelite woman's son and a man of Israel fought each other in the camp. And the Israelite woman's son blasphemed the name of the Lord and cursed. And so they brought him to Moses. His mother's name was Shelomoth, the daughter of Dibri of the tribe of Dan. And they put him in custody that the mind of the Lord might be known to them. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, take outside the camp him who has cursed, and let them who heard him lay hands on his head, and let all the congregation stone him. Then you shall speak to the children of Israel, saying, whoever curses his God shall bear his sin, and whoever blasphemes the name of the Lord shall surely be put to death. All the congregation shall certainly stone him, and the stranger as well as him who is born in the land. When he blasphemes the name of the Lord, he shall be put to death. Now listen to verse 17. Whoever kills any man shall surely be put to death. Whoever kills an animal shall make it good, animal for animal. If a man causes disfigurement of his neighbor, as he has done, so it shall be done to him. Fracture for fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. For he has caused disfigurement of a man, so it shall be done to him. And whoever kills an animal shall restore it, but whoever kills a man shall be put to death. You shall have the same law for the stranger and for the one from your own country. I am Yahweh your God. What was he doing? Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Look down at the notes. The principle is called lex talionis, was used to prevent extreme brutality in exacting retribution. In the ancient Near East, it had been the practice to take the life of one who had caused injury in retaliation for damages incurred. The Mosaic covenant limited retaliation. By the time of Jesus, the Pharisees had interpreted the law to mean that a person was required to pay to the injured person compensation equivalent to the damages caused. But that's not what he intended. He was actually saying, you don't kill everybody for everything, for every damage that's done. Limit. If you take out somebody's eye, you just give up your eye. If you mutilate somebody, then you just get mutilated in that way. If you fracture somebody, break somebody, you break a leg, just it'll break your leg. It stop you from doing that stuff to people. But he said, don't kill them, just break their leg. Don't kill them, just pluck their eye out. Whatever they did, do that to them. But Jesus brought in a higher order. Pastor, I said, sure was talking about the husband from dotting the eye, the wife's eye. Men from hitting women, period. But in the new covenant, Jesus said, you've heard that it is written, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. He said, but I say to you, love your enemies. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who despitefully use you. He said, I'm bringing in a higher order. But God had to give them these laws so that they wouldn't become just wow. He had to give them limitations. Let's go on to chapter 25. Chapter 25. Chapter 25, you have the Sabbath and the Jubilee years. In addition to the annual feast, Israel's religious calendar includes 2 other sacred times and events. Every 7th year is to be a year of Sabbath, a year of rest for the land, during which it shall lie fallow. Now you see this in chapter 25, verse 1 through 7. He says, and the Lord spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai, saying, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when you come into the land which I give you, when the land shall keep then the land shall keep a Sabbath to the Lord. Even the land, even the earth was supposed to get a rest. He says, 6 years you shall sow your field, and in 6 years you shall prune your vineyard and gather its fruit. But in the 7th year there shall be a Sabbath of solemn rest for the land, a Sabbath to the Lord. You shall neither sow your field nor prune your vineyard. What grows of its own accord of your harvest you shall not reap, nor gather the grapes of your untended vine, for it is a year of rest for the land. So the Lord wanted in the year of Jubilee even the land to rest. I think we've got to the place where we learn to put fertilizer and do all kind of things to strip the earth and just keep growing year after year after year. But you know, the earth is, you know your body is made out of earth. The earth, there's life in the earth. God created this earth and put life in it. And wherever there's life, whatever is alive needs to rest. Anything that has life has to rest. And so God said, give the earth a seventh year of rest. And then it says, the harvest in the land of promise will be so great that the land will not need to be worked in the seventh year. This statute prevents the ruin of the land. The year of Jubilee follows the seventh cycle of Sabbath years. The Jubilee year is to be consecrated as a year of release, of setting free, a year in which Israel is to proclaim liberty throughout all the land to all its inhabitants. If an Israelite family sold the tract of land allotted to it upon entering Canaan during the Jubilee year, that land is to revert back to the original family. If an Israelite found it necessary to sell himself or herself as a hired servant during the year of Jubilee, that person is to be freed to return to his or her family. These statutes prevent the ruin of impoverishment and indebtedness of the people. Every 50 years, the trumpet sounded and released. Boy, if we kept that, we wouldn't have the trouble that we've got in these economies all over the world today. People that are in slavery, that are in bondage, that are in debt, that have sold themselves. And literally, people have sold themselves to the company store. They have sold out their lives. They're working to pay on cars and houses and all that. They're in debt. They're in bondage. God never intended for people to come into such bondage, to work for your whole life, 40 hours a week of your life to be given to paying for stuff, things. That's not what he intended. If you're doing that, if you're working just to pay for stuff, you are in bondage. Jesus said if you're indebted to anybody, you become a servant to that person, a slave. So in the year of Jubilee, they sound that trumpet and they pronounce release. And do you know that Jesus said the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he's anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, to the recovery of sight to the blind, to preach the acceptable year of the Lord, to announce now is Jubilee. You know what Jesus was saying? This day, this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing. I am your Jubilee. I am your release from all debt. I come to set the captive free. So I hope you've done your homework. You had plenty of weeks to read about this Sabbath rest and this year of Jubilee. But God was concerned for his people. God's concern for the poor is illustrated in his command that no Israelite is to lend money to a compatriot at interest. Let's look at that, verse 35 and 38. 35 and 38. Let's look at that. If a man, we're in chapter 25. If a man purchases a house from the Levites, then the house that was sold in the city of his possession shall be released in the Jubilee. For the houses in the cities of the Levite are their possession among the children of Israel. What verse did I tell you to go to? We're in chapter 30, chapter 25, and I said verse 35. 25, 35. Right? 25, 35. You're right. Lending to the poor. If one of your brethren becomes poor and falls into poverty among you, then you shall help him, like a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with you. Take no usury or interest from him.